Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. I love seeing a record crowd like this. We hope you've had a chance to explore the exhibit, Writers Imagine Las Vegas, Our City in Fiction, downstairs on the first floor. When we looked at books set in Las Vegas, in future Las Vegas, one of the recurring ideas that emerged was that if you think Las Vegas has a reputation as being harsh and predatory now, just wait. We're delighted today to have Jarrett Keene explore this theme in his talk, Sin City Apocalypse, Writing and Editing Las Vegas Dystopian Futures. Jarrett teaches ancient literature and creative writing and literature courses at UNLV. He's the author of several poetry collections and the rock band biography, The Killers, Destiny is Calling Me, and has edited or co-edited several books about Las Vegas. He also covers the city's music scene for national and regional magazines. Jarrett, thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Hey, thank you so much. So yeah, the apocalypse, the post-apocalypse, dystopias. Okay, so starting in 2008, a few things, aside from the obvious economic recession, got me thinking about Las Vegas as the ideal setting for dystopian narratives, as the best place to use as a backdrop for post-apocalyptic storytelling. I started looking more closely at everyday news stories about Las Vegas. I began studying well-known film and fiction representations of a shattered Sin City. And finally, I was reading books by thinkers like William Fox and Mike Davis. So I'm going to give you a little tour of those ideas. The stories I'm going to introduce to you are just a sample of the kinds of stories that local, national, international journalists were relish writing about when they cover Las Vegas. Let's kick it off with this one. This is from Business Insider, June 30th, 2016. In 2010, guests at the Vdara Hotel in Vegas reported that the building gave them severe sunburns. The hotel's curved design reflects a death ray when the sun hits the glass at a certain angle. Covered in windows, the 57-story building reportedly acts as a giant magnifying glass, sending a hot ray onto the pool area. As the day passes, the hot spot moves across the pool area, increasing temperatures by 20 degrees. In June 2016, a guest claimed on Instagram that the pool area was 107.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, as a writer, the fictional conceit of a glass-encased casino tower incinerating guests using magnified sunlight is pretty cool. Spontaneous poolside combustion. There's so much about these, few lines of news coverage to stimulate the imagination. Ritually sacrificed to the death ray to appease the wrath of the casino deities. The people inhabiting the ruins of Vdara must find a way to escape being winnowed down to nothing. I mean, that to me is a great story. So that's how my brain works. But, okay, here's one that keeps me up at night. A University of California, Berkeley Law School graduate, according to the Associated Press in May 2014, was sentenced to up to 4 years probation and 16 hours of animal shelter work per month for beheading a chicken-sized exotic bird, a helmeted guinea fowl, during a drunken escapade in October 2012 at a Las Vegas Strip resort. So, there's so much you can do with this. Genetically enhanced killer flamingos, birds of prey let loose from a Vegas experimental aviary. I think what's shocking about this story, though, is that, the space between animal and tourist is removed, and the tourist kills a Vegas creature. The illusion is broken. It's very different from a white lion mauling a magician on stage because, you know, in this instance, there's just no stage. This one speaks a little closer to home. This story has been widely covered, but I took this line from a book called The Sordid Secrets of Las Vegas. Las Vegas has more than 300 miles of water runoff tunnels underneath it, a subway from hell, filled with people who aren't going anywhere. Dozens, possibly hundreds of the homeless live in the tunnels near the entrances to hoity-toity properties, such as the Luxor and Excalibur. Matt O'Brien, a graduate of the MFA Creative Writing Program here at UNLV, is the definitive chronicler of the lives of the people in the storm drains under the Strip. O'Brien's book is called Beneath the Neon. You should write that down. And the stark contrast between opulence and desperation is, I guess, endlessly fascinating, especially for the foreign press. Only in Las Vegas, really, is the suggestion that such disparity, you know, can exist and be tolerated. Okay, so I don't know about this one's kind of gross. This is from Time Magazine in 2013. The Vegas-based Heart Attack Grill makes no bones about the danger its offerings pose to customers. The restaurant's name warns diners what to expect if they eat what's on the menu. And the grill's 10,000-calorie quadruple bypass burger conveys a similarly ominous message. Now the establishment's owner has taken his campaign to prove his food's lethality to the next level by displaying a dead customer's cremated remains on live television. So, you know, gluttony to the point of oblivion. You know, whereas in New York, Bloomberg outlaws trans fats and giant-sized sodas, here in Las Vegas, you can gorge to your heart's demise and have your ashes displayed for the establishment's future customers or victims, depending on how you look at it, right? So fascinating. Again, this is just a sampling. This is from BBC News in January. If you're a drone pilot, there's a strong possibility you live in Las Vegas and your commute to work is against the traffic. We were told to drive northwest out of the city on US Route 95. The road stretches out through the barren, inhospitable scrub of the Nevada desert. Pay attention, we were told, because the signpost is small. In fact, it's very small. But we eventually arrived at our destination, Creech U.S. Air Force Base, a small, flat city in the desert, and the only air base devoted to flying drones. Inside the base, comparisons with science fiction are hard to avoid. A drone looks like a conflation of a giant insect and a light aircraft. It's unmanned. So, you know, the indication there is your next door neighbor in the suburbs could be a remote soldier. You drive to an office, she drives to an air base to look at a screen to decide who lives and dies, you know, thousands of miles away. There's a great horror novel actually about a combat UAV pilot who suffers post-traumatic stress and cracks up violently, spectacularly. It's called Reaper. You should probably write that down. Written by a former kickboxer and Vegas resident named Wrath, W-R-A-T-H, James White. He's that book. It's actually a novella, horror novella. It's pretty good. So anyway, now you know newsmakers have long enjoyed depicting the Wild West aspects of Las Vegas. Sure, but just join me for a moment in looking at how these stories unsubtly critique the city for its inability to protect its visitors, its residents, its fowl, for exploiting those who have died due to excess, for encouraging a schizophrenic split between drone bombing and suburban commuting. If you read national and international coverage, you learn that Vegas is populated by people who dwell in underground storm drains beneath the Strip, or slave in hotel casinos, or kill humans via remote control. Las Vegas attracts people who like to strangle exotic birds and eat until they die and be incinerated poolside by hotel reflected heat. So Las Vegas is already post-apocalyptic, at least in the introverted minds of journalists. For most normal people, though, this is a city of pleasure, of opportunity, of harmless indulgence. So why such disparate views? How can Vegas be both post-apocalyptic and pleasure-ridden, right? These news stories have an effect. They shape perception. They make Las Vegas out to be uncaring, semi-lawless, at times even dangerous. Yet here we are all in this room, existing in Las Vegas, despite these absurdity-rife tales. And I've lived in other tourist cities. I never used to read such stories about those places. Why doesn't someone do something to counteract these silly notions people have about our city? Why don't we, in this room, stand up right now, take the fight to Twitter, and fight against these, forgive the term, fake news items? Well, I have a theory about that. It's because I think we have a symbiotic and dependent relationship with the loony coverage to a degree. I mean, it makes each of us sound, cool, edgy. We depend to a degree on the city's bad metro image to maintain our own image, to generate more interest. We keep quiet. We don't protest too much because we love presenting as edgy. I mean, it's happened to me. Where do you live, Dr. Keene? I live in Las Vegas. Well, do you live in a casino? Yes. Do you eat at buffets a lot? No, I'm on a radioactive mutant coyote jerky diet. That joke killed before, I don't know. Why do you live in Las Vegas, Dr. Keene? Because this city is evil, and so am I. Right. So for some of us, living in Las Vegas is one of the more interesting things about us. When people outside of town ask questions, we might occasionally, make stuff up, embellish things for the sake of humor, as I've sometimes done, as I'm sure more than a few people in this room have done. It's not meant to be serious, but it is an opportunity for fiction making, for telling stories, for self-embellishment, for generating our own version of, fake news, but with a desire to make us more attractive. It's a chance to use our imaginations, to stretch the imagination of the person asking us questions. It's a chance to bend the rules of reality in a city that's known for bending reality. We collaborate, in essence, with Las Vegas to advance a collective mythology in a way that's playful, I should note, joyful, if a tad twisted. It's about extending the story of Las Vegas, where each of us in this room, at least for the moment, an extension of that tale, right? Now, having said that, Las Vegas is, in fact, a serious place. I love the Big Balls kiosk there. That is grounded in reality. Las Vegas is based on hardest text nonfiction. A waiter at Prime Steakhouse in Bellagio is as real as it gets. He doesn't need to be playful because he or she dazzles with the authenticity of his or her deeply earned knowledge. And by contrast, I'm sorry to say this, a waiter in LA isn't as confident or competent because he's really an undiscovered screenwriter. And in New York, he's an aspiring actor, novelist. He's inauthentic, unserious. He feels like a fraud. He feels phony because he's not serving filet against a backdrop of combat drones and nuclear testing and mob museums and hallucinatory strip architecture and synchro-ejaculating Bellagio fountains. Yes, I said synchro-ejaculating, and sleek Michelangelo emulations and porn and tech conventions. Only a real writer does that. A real waiter does that, and a real writer wants to write about that. And they benefit, too, from the news stories of Las Vegas, these waiters. a tech fantasy background enhances a waiter's performance. After all, magic is more powerful when it takes place on a stage. No offense to street magicians, but magic feels more real, more visceral when it's being performed on a stage like, say, in Las Vegas. So, poor Andy Kirk from history, he ended up in my slide. So, indeed, the seriousness and the competency with which we conduct ourselves professionally in Las Vegas really help to underscore our city's myth. Yes, at times we might be all fun and games on the surface. Often we're happy to play along with the myth, with the story, but when you get past the fictional surface, we are serious. The news cultivates an image of cartoonish existence, but when people arrive here, and especially on the Strip, they are dazzled. They're delighted. They're dream-racked, and they come back again and again. The story continues. The myth grows. The myth expands. But then so do the dangers. And so does the potential for dystopia. So where did this image of dystopian Las Vegas first emerge? Well, prior to the 70s, prior to the post-Vietnam era, negative images of Las Vegas were certainly manufactured. Images of organized crime, gambling addiction, quickie divorces, women with loose morals. But other cities could certainly compete with Las Vegas levels of vice. But it was gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson who is credited with pushing to the forefront of pop culture the dark image of Las Vegas in his apocalypse-tinged 1972 novel, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And his infamous description of a certain Strip property, while humorously hyperbolic, is now taken as an article of faith in the years since the book's publication. It's just really two sentences, but they've had such a huge impact. And here's the sentences. The circus is what the whole HEP world would be doing Saturday night if the Nazis had won the war. This is the Sixth Reich. And when I read this sentence as an 18-year-old, I laughed out loud. I thought it was funny to compare the magic lands of Las Vegas with Hitler's fatherland, this is where Tom Jones performs What's New Pussycat. And I think Thompson probably thought it was funny when he wrote it. The word HEP is dated, though. It's like beatnik speak. What would you even call? I don't know. But over the years, I've come to realize that people take that sentence way too seriously. And someone who took it way too seriously, I think, was Stephen King. Yeah. So the more significant, developed, influential fictional treatment of what do you want to call it, dystopian Las Vegas can be credited to King in his 1978 post-apocalyptic novel, The Stand. And with the villain Randall Flagg, King created the definitive Darth Vader grade villain of the post-apocalyptic adventure genre. He's a necromancer, a seemingly unkillable satanic force. Flagg leads an effort to construct a new world, a new civilization in the aftermath of some kind of military-created super flu that's wiped out most of the world's population. Flagg he's tall, dark, and ageless. Flagg recalls having been at various points in time a Marine, a Klansman, a Viet Cong soldier, Patty Hearst's abductor. Flagg's Las Vegas, where he's creating this new civilization. The survivors there, they're drawn to powerful, charismatic, dark triad leader that Flagg represents. And I have this pretty cool bit from the novel in which King is describing Randall Flagg. He was well known along the highways in hiding that are traveled by the poor and the mad, by the professional revolutionaries and by those who have been taught to hate so well that their hate shows on their faces like hair lips and they are unwanted except by others like them, who welcome them to cheap rooms with slogans and posters on the walls, to basements where lengths of sawed-off pipe are held in padded vices while they are stuffed with high explosives, to back rooms where lunatic plans are laid to kill a cabinet member, to kidnap the child of a visiting dignitary, to break into a boardroom meeting of Standard Oil with grenades and machine guns and murder in the name of the people. He was known there, and even the maddest of them could only gaze upon his dark and grinning face at an oblique angle, right? So in King's description, then, Flagg embodies the scariest aspects of American extremism, an extremism that runs amok yet concealed amidst post-Vietnam society, an extremism that runs towards both ends of the political spectrum. It's a powerful notion King conjures that there are hidden currents, secret roadways where the most frightening chaos mongers roam undetected, right? Moving along the gutters of the world. It's he's the boogeyman. It's pretty incredible. And but so much of the Las Vegas that Randall is creating, the new civilization in Las Vegas that Randall is creating, is about performance and about public displays of power and control. In Flagg's Las Vegas, punishments like crucifixion help maintain order. In Flagg's Las Vegas, people work harder, and the figurative trains run on time. Here's a description of Flagg's Las Vegas. This is from the POV of one of the characters, Dana Jurgens. She's a spy assigned from the comparatively peaceful Boulder Free Zone in Boulder, Colorado, where the good guys are building their own community, right? So the good guys live in Boulder, bad guys live in Las Vegas. And so Dana Jurgens observes of Flagg's Las Vegas. She thought that Vegas had a rather larger proportion of stupids than the zone. Can you see any of these images? Maybe I should dim the lights. I don't know. There were also people who worked much harder than she remembered the people in the zone working. In the free zone, you saw people idling in the parks at all hours of the day, and there were people who decided to break from noon until 2. That sort of thing didn't happen over here in Las Vegas. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., everybody was working, either at Indian Springs or on the maintenance crews here in town, and school had started again. The pharmacies were open and unguarded. People came and went all the time, but they took away nothing heavier than a bottle of aspirin. There was no drug problem in the West. Everyone was friendly and straight, and it was wise to drink nothing stronger than bottled beer. Germany in 1938, Dana thought, the Nazis? Oh, they're charming people, very athletic. They don't go to the nightclubs. The nightclubs are for the tourists. What do? They make clocks. Was it a fair comparison? She didn't know, but she thought that maybe it was. So that's a description of the post-apocalyptic denizens of Las Vegas. So such is the inconsistency of King's portrait of Flagg. Flagg is an agent of chaos and violence, and yet like Italian dictator Mussolini, there's fascist efficiency in Flagg's rule. Indeed, there is something about Las Vegas and its punctuality, its dependability, that smacks of totalitarianism, right? What's unfair about, there's many things, but what's unfair about this, of course, is that Vegas's systematic efficiency really has nothing to do with right-wing despotism and everything to do with equality union employees who dominate the strip casino jobs, right? Even those who would presume are allied with collective bargaining can't see the people for the neon bombast in the aftermath of a 2011 sociology conference at Caesar's Palace. Academics heaped snark and scorn on Las Vegas. One professor described Las Vegas as, quote, a theater of consumption, a place where people dress up to show themselves to other people. Las Vegas is a place where people are constantly watching others, but it's not a real city, end quote. So apparently this intellectual neglected to see that the people working hard to ensure that the theater of consumption kept her comfortably, perfectly cocooned. Las Vegas is, after all, a blue city, according to the most recent election anyway, a blue state. But what I love most about reading things I disagree with is how they make me reconsider the allure, the mystique of Las Vegas. So back to Flagg. His efforts to concentrate power in the West, thwarted by the trash can man, a lunatic, weapons-hoarding follower of Flagg's. This guy Trash arrives with a stolen nuclear warhead, which is detonated in front of the MGM Grand, or in the 90s TV movie adaptation, the Plaza Hotel. It's detonated, check this out, by a giant glowing finger that King in the novel refers to as the hand of God. Yeah, I have trouble defending this part of the book. But anyway, the nuke destroys Las Vegas, killing all of Flagg's followers. Deus ex exidium, God out of destruction. In other words, King, so thoroughly repulsed by Las Vegas as he's writing The Stand, has God intervene near the book's conclusion to obliterate the city. And since then, the dog pile has been pretty relentless yet interesting. Let me just show you this clip. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it.
It's me, Trashy. What do you have there? Big one. Fire. The evil. The fire. Are you? Listen to me, Trash. You have to get that away. It's dangerous. Come back! Come back, you cowards! Shoot him, boy. Kill the crazy bastard!
The promise has been kept as God has willed it. Amen.
Larry, do you see it? The hand of God. Get away! Fire! 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 Basic grace.
You're done good, boys. Come on home.
Take us home.
Is that Gary Sinise?
Pale horse, a pale rider upon it. The name of the horse was Pestilence. The name of the rider was Death.
What was it, Stu?
It's the end of Las Vegas, Tommy.
Yeah, so I can't. Kind of indefensible, right? I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, who knew King was so religious and so puritanical? Wow. Anyway, here's some of the great moments of Las Vegas apocalypse, post-apocalypse, moments that precede The Stand and some that come after. The Amazing Colossal Man. 1957, yes, an Army officer caught in an atomic mishap heals and then grows into a 60-foot mutant. He begins trashing Las Vegas before being cornered at Hoover Dam. Shot with the bazooka, he falls to his death into the Colorado River. Yeah, that's a good one. Flight of Black Angel, classic, made for Showtime 1991 movie about an Air Force pilot who loses his mind and uses his jet fighter to nuke Las Vegas. Yeah, okay, that's a good one. Mars attacks. Martian spacecraft surround the world's major cities, including Las Vegas. Humanity waits to see if these ETs are whether or not they come in peace. U.S. President, played by Jack Nicholson, receives assurances from a scientist that the Martians are friendly, but when there's a peaceful exchange, it ends in annihilation of the U.S. Congress, and then the military is called in. This one's pretty fun.
Lucifer. What a great show.
You need to watch that show, Suits. Suits.
Watch Stranger Things. Next.
Find Cake Wars.
Watch what you want on the Fire TV stick now with Alexa voice remote.
Jesus Christ. There's a Martian right there.
Yeah, nice. The Luxor. Very good. Very good. Okay, so footage of the actual implosion of the Landmark Hotel is used in this film to show the scene in which the aliens take out the Landmark. It's an instance when Vegas's version of Renewal, the hotel implosion, serves to produce an image of apocalypse. I think that's pretty interesting. Resident Evil Extinction, set in Las Vegas, 2007, post-apocalyptic horror movie. I think it's the third one in the series based on a video game. The film follows the heroine as she crosses the Mojave to escape a zombie plague. Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little of that goes a long way, but this movie had a huge impact on Las Vegas entertainment industry. You know, the zombie apocalypse shop, those places where you can shoot a machine gun in the desert and pretend you're paintballing, or you have a paintball experience with zombies. This movie seems to have had a huge impact on that and more. And then, oh man, have you guys seen that? Do you guys remember this scene? Let me just play it anyway. I know most of you have seen it, but let's just. Oh, whoops, sorry. I didn't embed it correctly. Oh well. Did something wrong. But in this scene, it's incredible because in an effort to escape Soviet agents at Area 51, they've infiltrated somehow the Area 51 in the test site. Indiana Jones winds up in one of those mannequin festooned doom towns that were used to, measure the impact of atomic blasts. Indiana Jones survives by sealing himself inside a lead-lined refrigerator. I think it's just a really cool scene because we learn a lot about Indy's resourcefulness at that moment. It drives home the idea that nuclear war is unwinnable, unsurvivable without quality Cold War era appliances, designed to meet the food storage needs of, Leave It to Beaver or whatever. The movie is set in the year 1957. So we learn that Indy, the character, being a product of the World War II pulp era, is hardy and rugged enough to be of much use in the post-war, post-nuke arena. So that's a cool moment. My favorite comic book representation of post-apocalyptic Las Vegas I read when I was a child. Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth, 1973. It was published the year I was born, but I read it much later, secondhand. And the issue is number 3. So already Jack Kirby, the co-creator of Captain America, the Avengers, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, when he turned his attention to the post-apocalyptic genre, he was very eager to get his character to Las Vegas right away. The story is called The Thing That Grew on the Moon. It's in this story, Commandy, the kid hero, is captured by guerrilla men in Las Vegas. One of the warriors is named Chaku, and he demands the right to own the talking human kid. In post-apocalyptic Commandy's world, humans can't talk anymore. They're just like animals, and all the animals are have the intellects. So it's a literary image of post-apocalyptic Vegas that precedes The Stand, that we can find in a 20-cent comic book from '73. And if you notice, Kirby was obviously alluding to the David and Goliath confrontation there in the cover image. And it's interesting that Las Vegas is known as a place where men control animals for the entertainment of other men. Kirby flips that here. Vegas becomes a place where humans are kept as pets, displayed to amuse gorillas. And here's images of Commandy wandering the Las Vegas, the shattered, dead city of Las Vegas. And even as the bombs were falling, it seems, as the cataclysm took hold, people were still piling in. Resiliency. After 9/11, after 2008, the economic collapse, people still came to Vegas. They still made it here. Las Vegas is stunning even when broken. It'll survive in pieces and fragments, like Stonehenge, the pyramids, etc. Even if humanity doesn't survive. There's the landmark again. Graveyard of Dreams. The playland is ruined by the nightmare of nuclear reality. The world will definitely end, and if it ends in Las Vegas, so much the better, because dreams should be limited, constrained. And this issue is amazing. This goes all to this is a shout out to all my Henderson peeps. What we have here is the first and only images of post-apocalyptic Henderson that you will ever find. Yes, in 1973. I know you think I'm joking, but I'll just quote from the narrative caption. In the ruins of a suburb near Las Vegas is how the setting of Commandy issue number 4 is described. Well, at least there's leftover comics lying around. There's the Henderson Shopping Square. I don't know if that was a real place, but again, this was published in '73. So yes, Henderson made it on the graphic novel map, even though it's fallen on hard times here. And here's here's the humans being herded into a Henderson swimming pool. So you'll never look at your watering hole the same way again. All right, and so before the recent Godzilla movie remake, in which Las Vegas is crushed, Toho Giant Monster was licensed by Marvel Comics and set loose in Las Vegas in this issue of issue 9 of Godzilla. the monster busts open Hoover Dam, flooding Las Vegas, but not before leveling a few casinos. So in one of these casinos in the story, there's a desperate gambler with the last dime to his name. He's got to decide whether to make a call for help or to play the slots again one last time. He wins big by playing the slots. He makes the right decision. He gambles it all on roulette to finance his mother's operation. And he wins again. And just as the pit boss begins to push him his earnings, here comes the water, sluicing through the casino, wiping everything away. And like the atom bomb in The Stand, in which the righteous and unrighteous are both consumed, so does Godzilla, a force of nature awakened by man's arrogance with regard to technology, annihilate the city where dreams hinge on the spin of a roulette wheel. So I read that as a child. That was a pretty big deal. Fallout New Vegas. I'm not even going to, do I need to say anything about it? Everybody's played that in here, right? Yeah, it's a video game. You play the courier, I guess. I don't know. I actually haven't played it, but I've watched the trailer. It looks cool. This game was released around the same time that the anthology I edited, Dead Neon, was appearing on shelves, and it was kind of cool to have a book in some ways drafting behind the success of a huge game like this. So I've talked about all the pop stuff. I just want to mention the intellectual influences I went into putting together Dead Neon, Tales of Near Future Las Vegas. And the two guys who've helped shape my ideas about Las Vegas as an ideal post-apocalyptic setting. First, William Fox. My favorite book of his is called In the Desert of Desire, in which he takes a close look at how Vegas creates spectacle in response to desire. And Fox has interesting things to say, right from the get-go. Here's just a quote from the book. Driving to Las Vegas, a task that, before the advent of automobile air conditioning, was best accomplished during the night, was a disorienting experience, and thus one quickly romanticized as an adventure into the exotic. So the contrast between arriving in Vegas during the day and arriving at night is stark. You guys know what I'm talking about. Vegas is still plenty interesting in the light, but once the lights turn off, once it goes dark, Las Vegas is a beacon. It's a string of jewels, and it's very disorienting, hallucinatory to arrive. Here's another quote from the Fox book. Spectacle to be effective has to be threatening at a discernible level so that the audience can at least sense, if not understand, the degree of power deployed to keep it under control. The power is therefore made visible and even increased. And I think Vegas obscures a lot of its power, but shows you enough so that you understand that the power is real and can be turned against you. There is, I think, an implicit threat about Las Vegas, the way it uses technology, what it chooses to show you, and what it doesn't. Another great quote from Fox's Desire book. The water in most of the elaborate displays, save that which is lost through evaporation, is recycled, and the resorts, which in total use only 10% of the water in town, waste far less than homeowners do. But the resort's highly visible display of water, as if it were a captive element made to jump through hoops, is a powerfully symbolic gesture that is a counter-incentive to other businesses and residents to conserve the resource. So, I think about this display of water, this display of power, of manipulation. He who controls water is divine. He who manipulates water is God. And it, makes it, you're a God if you can make water perform tricks. Fox's other great work is Playa Works, The Myth of the Empty. And my favorite quote from this particular book goes like this: deserts are also what we take to be transformative spaces. If we suffer in our contact with them from a cognitive dissonance that can kill us, the dislocation of our senses in deserts also provides an opportunity to experience a different way of relating to the world. If the lack of visual cues leads to our walking in a circle, it can also dramatically increase our haptic or whole body perception of the landscape. In the desert, you can feel as if, by being radically diminished in size, you are more properly scaled to the planet. It seems as if your mind expands to fill the space around you, an eerie and very nearly hallucinogenic experience, and one probably related to why so many religions, in particular monotheism, were birthed in the deserts of the Middle East. End quote. So it's tempting to think of diminishment of hallucinations, of dislocation, of dissonance, as an opportunity for transformation. You can't transform or be creative if you're solid, serious, certain, right? You have to be, your footing has to be off. Vegas is an ongoing mutation. You do the evolution here. You change, you metastasize, you give birth to something new. There are new gods to worship here in Las Vegas. I think that's why why this place is scary for liberals and conservatives alike. There's just, there's new deities to be adored. I just love this. Yeah, another quote. The playas are equally about absence and presence, a visual feel that almost demands that we recreate ourselves, because out there on the largest, flattest, and clearest places on land that we can find, there's no illusion of permanence, hence no reason to not do so. And this goes back to what I was talking about, a vast stage. I want to drive my mind into that space, that cosmic, what would you call it, lunar terrain. I want to, that idea of feeling big by feeling small. I think it's what the Greeks were after. From Homer's Iliad to Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, breaking oneself down to feel larger than life. And then there's the more cynical of the two thinkers, Mike Davis, with his book Dead Cities, which includes an essay called Las Vegas versus Nature. And the very first paragraph of this essay is simply amazing. It goes like this. It was advertised as the biggest non-nuclear explosion in Nevada's history. On October 27th, 1993, Steve Wynn, the state's official god of hospitality, flashed his trademark smile and pushed the detonator button. As 200,000 Las Vegans cheered, the Dunes Hotel, former flagship of the Strip, slowly crumbled to the desert floor. The giant dust plume was visible from the California border. Nobody in Nevada found it the least bit strange that Wynn's gift to the city, that he so adores, was to blow up a piece of its history. This was simple urban renewal Vegas style, one costly facade destroyed to make way for another. So that's a very dismal view of things. But Vegas doesn't look back. Orpheus and Eurydice, except for that for many Las Vegas is the underworld. But explosive renewal, it's a fascinating metaphor. That's actually the landmark, not the dunes. And I have a video, but you can see those videos. I'm so strange. I sometimes just watch videos of Vegas hotels imploding, but because it's fun. Environmental terrorism is another section of the essay. Las Vegas gets blamed for its neighboring rival towns in gaming and hospitality. This is from the section of the essay, like I said, called Environmental Terrorism. In the blast furnace heat of the Colorado River's Big Bend, Las Vegas's own demon seed, Laughlin, has germinated kudzu-like, even if you stop the sentence there, it's amazing, has germinated kudzu-like into an important gambling center. Skyscraper casinos and luxury condos share the West Bank with the mega-polluting Mojave power plant, which devours coal slurry pumped with water stolen from Hopi mesas hundreds of miles to the east. Directly across the river, sprawling and violent Mojave County, Arizona, comprising Bullhead City and Kingman, provides trailer park housing for Laughlin's non-union minimum wage workforce, as well as a breeding ground for anti-government militias. It was here that Timothy McVeigh worked as a security guard while incubating his Turner Diary fantasies of Aryan vengeance. Poor Laughlin. Poor Arizona. That was a very powerful bit of sentences for me to read. And then from the hyperbolic growth section of Davis's essay. Unlike Los Angeles, Las Vegas has never practiced water conservation or environmental design on any large scale. It was born dumb. Cheap water has allowed it to exercise even the most residual semiotic allusion to its actual historical and environmental roots. The desert, moreover, has lost all positive presence as landscape or habitat. It is merely the dark, brooding backdrop for the neon babble. So the desert, in other words, is just the blank canvas, it's not an organism, it's not a living thing on which people paint their dreams, build their empires. Because of this, Las Vegas is due for punishment. Vegas needs to see the desert as an organism, right? And then he even talks about Summerlin as an off-world, like in the movie Blade Runner. Has anyone seen Blade Runner? Yeah. A few of my favorite, if contradictory, sentences from Las Vegas versus Nature. Meanwhile, Las Vegas's booming suburbs stubbornly reject physical and social integration with the rest of the city. To use the nomenclature of the futuristic movie Blade Runner, they are all self-contained off-worlds, prizing their security and social exclusivity above all else. The most ambitious of Las Vegas's off-worlds is Summerlin. When Summerlin is finally completed in the early 21st century, a population of 200,000 living in 26 income and age differentiated villages will be hermetically sealed in Las Vegas's own upscale version of Arizona's leaky biosphere. Somehow you got the Biosphere 2 project in there. It's amazing. So for refusing to integrate, Las Vegas should be punished. I think that's an important word choice. If you prize security, exclusivity, you are on par with the characters in a dystopian movie. We should merge instead with the urban core, right, to avoid looking like Ridley Scott extras. So shame on you for living in Summerlin. Actually, it's nice there. Okay, so Davis even mentions The Stand. He talks about, he says, in his apocalyptic potboiler, The Stand, Stephen King envisioned Las Vegas as Satan's earthly capital, with the evil one literally enthroned in the MGM Grand. Many environmentalists would probably agree with this characterization of the Glitter Dome's diabolical zeitgeist. No other city in the West seems to be as driven by occult forces or as unresponsive to social or natural constraints. Like Los Angeles, Las Vegas seems headed for some kind of eschatological crack-up. In the King novel, Satan ultimately nukes himself. And of course, Davis kind of gets that wrong a little bit, but I think that's an interesting interpretation. And so then I was reading all this stuff, basking in it, stewing in it, and I thought, this is inspiring me to want to assemble an anthology of short fiction with a post-apocalyptic theme. And so I set out to, recruit Vegas writers, people who are familiar with the city, to get them thinking about this and to writing down their fantasies about a ruined Vegas. And to do this, I sought to enlist diverse writers with a range of experiences, writers with, real experience in the various industries here. I secured stories from people who'd worked in the hotels, as teachers in the public schools and in local journalism and UNLV and technology, private security. So the culmination of that process is the 2010 short story anthology, Dead Neon. And I was surprised how difficult it was to pull sci-fi from Vegas writers. There's two of them here that I wouldn't even give me a where's Brian there? I asked Brian for a story, but he's more of a crime guy, a ghost, supernatural guy. I did. I asked you at the Vegas Valley Book Festival. Don't pretend. Where's O'Brien? O'Brien back there. Yeah, he said he wasn't a fiction writer back in 2009. Now he has an MFA in fiction. It was more difficult than I had imagined. It was I provided guidance, of the basest kind, like give me a story on mutant strippers or something, and then they would go, okay, I'm not doing that, and then they would. So I gave them ideas. I gave writers ideas of what not to do. So I think that helped, right? When somebody tells you something, and you're like, that's terrible. I'll come up with something else. And near future was an important term. To me, most science fiction, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most science fiction that what I've read is, distant future, far away from now. I wanted to focus on stories that were local, earthbound. I wanted stories that were extrapolations of current technology, for instance. I didn't really want, what's the term, hard science fiction. I wanted stuff that maybe had more of a sociological bent to it. So I got some good ones. I'm just going to share just the summaries of a few of them. The opening story, Sin's Last Stand by Chris Niles, tells a story in which the U.S. is conquered by Christian extremists and democracy is dead. And so the residents of this hyper-evangelized Las Vegas are controlled through religion. The story centers on a character named Melissa Jane Gibson, a non-god who's the last surviving resident of Las Vegas. The country's being controlled by a group called the Four Gods, a group of zealots who blame everything from war to obesity on the non-gods. So the overall story of Sin's Last Stand follows the character as she explains to the reader the extreme religious makeover that the country underwent, the conversion to a one-god government. And there's just some great moments throughout this piece. But I love this piece because it kind of reminded me of Randall Flagg, of Stephen King's The Stand. I thought it'd be a great place to start a collection like this with a familiar, religious kind of themed, centered short story. And there's just some, the casinos have all been made as religious centers. I found that to be important too. Another great story in the collection is called Glons. This is the one story that really kind of stretched my definition of, tested my definition of near future. But there's basically a pleasure planet that's based off of Las Vegas, and it's called, interestingly enough, New Vegas, aka Babylon. Glons takes place at an unspecified time in what I was describing as the near future, but where it looks as if race and religion have died off, and all that's left is genetically modified humans. And so the title of the story refers to a special kind of technology that was left behind by an alien race called the Mandarins. Glons is a mixture of the words glass and bronze, refers to the appearance of a dream world that people can actually interact with. And I thought that was interesting in the context of Las Vegas. Vegas itself is a kind of dream world that we can interact with. So the story follows the escapades of a woman named Gloriana. She's a spy cop. She specializes in working in this Glons world. So there's some typical science fiction qualities to the piece. Flying cars, genetically modified soldiers. But what really sets this story apart is the Glons technology. And then the third story is sort of a collection of flash fiction. Flash fiction, if you're not up to date with the lingo, is a short story usually between 300 and 1,000 words. It emphasizes the short in the short story. The story I'm talking about is called Your Recent Acquisitions in the Neonesque Micro-Fables by Andrew Corrali. And in the story, he describes a collection of future casinos that are captivating, fantastic in the way that they're constructed, in the way they're described. So there's no central character. The only characters in this story are the hotel casinos. They're each of them is personified in a different and imaginative way into living, breathing, constantly evolving creatures that are never really imploded or destroyed, but always built upon. So this story begins, I should say, with a section called A Legendary Casino. It tells the story of the Highgate, a casino that's mysterious, rumor-filled. It's being constructed by a strange being, and in the end we see that it's everything the people wanted and more. So this is one of my favorite stories in the collection. And then I guess what I should say finally is that, I had to do a book release party for Dead Neon. And, when you do a book release party in Las Vegas, it requires a show, I think, like a performance. So I hit upon this idea of forming a rock band as a way of promoting the book, Dead Neon. So I invited a couple of my downtown neighbors. I think the drummer is he does PR for the city. The bass player works at Zappos, and we began rehearsing as a band, and it's called a Dead Neon after the book, the perfect name for a post-apocalyptic doom metal band. So we began playing a few shows in dive bars around the valley. What was interesting, by the time we held the book release party at a bar on Fremont Street, more people showed up to see the band than showed up to buy a copy of the book. And so I took note of this, and I posted the album it was just a rehearsal we recorded live. I posted this as our album on Bandcamp. Have you heard of Bandcamp? And then I sent a few links out to online metal magazines just for fun. And then these reviews began appearing, and everywhere, like in different countries. We got invited to play a metal festival in Bulgaria. Like they were gonna buy the plane tickets for me and my band, and then set us up. And I couldn't do it because I had to teach, and I didn't want to be big in Bulgaria. But it was tempting. And then somehow a documentary filmmaker in France, he was interested in doing a film on recession-ravaged Las Vegas. He somehow got wind of my band and then included me in this film he was making. And then this movie, as far as I know, is still being screened at film festivals across Europe. This is an example of the power that Vegas has over people. Simply writing about and editing a book of short fiction, set in a post-apocalyptic Las Vegas, got me rave reviews in the Bulgarian metal press, got me starring in I have a huge role in this documentary. I don't know how that happened. And so I got introduced to the local underground metal scene. I got introduced to French documentary filmmakers. And these experiences I wouldn't trade for anything. These are experiences that only could happen in a city as unreal, as hyper-real as Las Vegas. Ours is a city that is about, constant reinvention. If I think about my 16 years here in Las Vegas and how I arrived in this room at this moment with all of you here, it's just incredible. I used to write reviews of strip clubs for money, and now here I am at UNLV, surrounded by academics, smart people, and just people who are promising and have their whole lives ahead of them. It's just a real an honor and a pleasure. So anyway, I'm going to take a few questions if you have any. I just want to thank Priscilla and the library for giving me a moment to talk about post-apocalyptic dystopian Las Vegas.
Questions or observations?
I knew you guys didn't believe it, but the band is real. I wish I could play it louder, but yeah, these are my neighbors. And I bought a pink Hello Kitty guitar at Sam Ash for $80, and I would play that through a Fender Twin. So little of that goes a long way. Any questions? I think that YouTube has 56 views. Sorry, go ahead, question.
No, you're fine. First off, thank you so much, Dr. Keene, for the interesting talk. At the start of your presentation, you mentioned there existing a symbiotic relationship with Vegas and Vegas residents, which was encompassed in that phrase, "the city's evil and so am I." So I was just wondering if you would say that that idea or concept has almost become like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if yes, does that further contribute to this future dystopian image of Vegas?
Well, if by self-fulfilling prophecy you mean if like that's a bad thing, I mean I just what I want to drive home, and I hope I'm emphasizing is that, you know, Vegas, despite its characterization in fiction and film, and even in my own book, it's a fun. Entropy can be fun, you know. Deconstruction is fun. It's what we do as academics, breaking things down and rebuilding them. I think that is exactly what Las Vegas represents. It's an opportunity for all of us to play a part in that deconstruction and reconstruction. I mean, if you stay the same throughout your entire life, you're kind of dead, right? I mean, there's just no point. The idea of changing, of evolving, of transforming regularly, I think, is exciting. Is what keeps us alive and keeps us going. And there's a lot to be said for tradition, for history, for you know, customs and things like that. But there's also liberation and freedom in being allowed to exist and change in a city that is as dynamic as Las Vegas. I don't know if I answered the question, but
Hi, thank you very much for your lecture. I found it very interesting. Back in the 90s, you know, Vegas went through like a major makeover under Steve Wynn, Colloquium, where many of the old casinos were torn down and replaced by new themed casinos, which are still standing, such as the Excalibur, the Luxor. And for a lot of people, that was very strange because it tried to take on some kind of family destination.
Yes,
yeah, and even now, we're trying to go through some other kind of rebranding with the downtown project, building of the Smith Center, expansion of the arts. Do you think that the people of Vegas itself, especially the natives who were born and raised here, are having a difficulty and sort of trouble in finding the identity of themselves in the city?
Well, I know what you mean. You know, dislocation, disorientation. Too much of it is probably not good. But so many of the natives that I know in Las Vegas, I mean, they are just so much more experienced and mature than I was as a young man. I mean, I've got students who they work in the hotels, and they've seen some serious things. I mean, I think some of them might be, you know, suffering PTSD. What's incredible what they've, you know, especially the ones that work the pools, the stories they've told me. I don't even want to repeat them here, but they're very problematic. But at the same time, the average 18-year-old student that I have in my classes, his or her Vita CV resume is impressive. They've had a lot of jobs, done a lot of work, have a lot of experience managing, directing other employees, working in settings that I would have been unimaginable to a kid in Tampa, Florida in the 70s and 80s. So I understand what you're saying about identity, and maybe it is hard for natives. I've only been here 16 years, so I'm not quite there yet. But I know what you're talking about. But if we can embrace the potential for transformation, I think that's more important. I think it's just a matter of flipping the switch in our heads to see this place differently. You know, what people tell me all the time, that really the way to survive in Vegas is to leave, like every now and then, like just go away and then come back. And nothing beats driving back or flying back to Las Vegas, and it really feels like home. And I think that's, when I come back, I feel like there's promise, there's opportunity, I have another chance. And I think that's what Las Vegas offers and what sets us apart.
As a student of Las Vegas history, and as particular of its demolition, what do you think is the next building to be demolished here? What would you want the next one?
Casino Death Watch. Which one is next?
Going next. Exactly.
No, they're not. I think the economy is still a little shaky. I don't think they're still, what's creepy to me are those buildings that they started but didn't finish. What is that, the Fountain Blue or something like that? What did I drive by the other day? You know, those unfinished projects, those are ripe for a post-apocalyptic movie backdrop. We got to get some movie shot in there. But no, I don't think there'll be any demolitions until things pick up even more. I mean, which one do I want to see flattened? I don't know. I love them all. I cried when the Stardust fell, and you know, I was in there like the day before they knocked it down, and it was, you know, I like that Stardust sign. I don't know. I'm very nostalgic about a place that I haven't spent that. Well, I guess I'm here 16 years. I don't know. I love them all. I can't really say I live under the stratosphere. So that to me is that's my prize. That's my beacon. I know where to go. If I get lost in the valley, I just gotta make my way to the stratosphere. I'll make it home. You know, stratosphere is home for me. So they can flatten any of the hotels, just not the stratosphere, please.
In comparison to science fiction representations of Las Vegas, what do you think the impact of realistic fictional films and stuff like that, like Ocean's 11, like the recent Jason Bourne movie, The Hangover, those type of films?
Oh, they're boring to me, but I mean, The Hangover, I mean, I guess it's kind of liberating. I don't know. It just looks like... Actually, no, I don't like The Hangover. I don't really have any... some people might feel differently. I think there's many people who disagree with me. They think the movie is a scream. To me, it's just silly. It doesn't make me engage Las Vegas in any intellectual or thoughtful way, but I might be missing it. I would gladly sit through a presentation on why The Hangover is the most important cinematic representation of Las Vegas ever done, but I just don't see it yet. To me, it's and the Jason Bourne. You know, I didn't see that most recent Jason Bourne movie, but I'm gonna go check it out. It looks good. You know, they shot it down the street from me. I need to check it out. What movie was I watching that they on Amazon Prime? Have you seen The Legend of Master Legend? It's filmed all in my neighborhood. It's about a guy who thinks he's a superhero. He's like one of these people that wants to do good. So he dresses up like a superhero and seeks out crime to fight, and it's just hilarious and kind of sad, but really interesting. I like it. The Legend of Master Legend. I think it's like a pilot episode on Amazon Prime. That's pretty good. But other than that, I'm not big on the non-science fiction representations of Las Vegas.
And I guess just one last little question was, what's your favorite way of Las Vegas being destroyed?
What did he say? Oh, definitely aliens, Mars attacks. I love that. Aliens coming and taking over what they originally created many years ago. We were all, ancient aliens. That's what the human race is an experiment of alien intelligence. But I like aliens. I think everybody likes aliens. They're fun. Oh, Area 51, yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, guys. I hope you had a great time. I'll see you soon.